So you just chant the sleep not to level. And then when you stand up to start the chant, okay. If there's a bad veggies, huh? So.
And there's 4 plates of it.
We'll do our meditation now. Please join me in invoking our teacher's name 3 times.
Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha.
As we see teacher, venerable teachers out of town this week, so I'd like to grace you in my presence. Just kidding. So today I wanted to talk about chapter 5 of the Lotus Sutra. It's titled Medicinal Herbs. Well, at least in our translation, it's chapter 5. As most of you know, the Lotus Sutra is our main sutra, which is a book of teachings at this temple. It's one of the most comprehensive and lengthy ones in the whole canon of sutras. It's a very important one because the whole theme of the Lotus Sutra is universal Buddhahood. Everyone can attain Buddhahood. Everyone can become a Buddha. So it has many parables and stories and similes, and it's full of imagery that is probably very foreign to us, but everything that's in the Lotus Sutra is very symbolic. So everything that's there, everything that's mentioned in the sutra means something. So there's a lot of mention of different hells and different heavenly beings, demons, just random mythological stuff, right? And you'll see a lot of that in Buddhist imagery, whether it's paintings or cave paintings, or maybe, but they all mean something. They all represent, they all characterize a certain characteristic of our human mind. So there's a lot of stuff in there, because back when they were first written, those things meant or symbolized something in everyone's life. So there's a lot of that in a lot of Buddhist sutras. So it can become very foreign to us. It can be difficult to understand or try to comprehend what it's really trying to teach you. Especially the Lotus Sutra is full of that. So it is something that if you do read, I recommend that you read it literally probably 1,000 times before you can begin to comprehend what it's actually trying to say, because the very first time your mind is going to be blown. You're like, what is going on here? The second, third time, you're like, okay, I kind of get it now. And then after a while, you'll start to actually get it, right? But it does take a lot of contemplation, a lot of thinking, a lot of study. Sutra study in general, if you're practicing or studying the sutras or teachings, it's very important that you have a good foundation of Buddhist teachings first, because otherwise you're just going to kind of walk in blindly and you're going to be way too confused to even want to continue your studies. So, but the Lotus Sutra is something that we regularly chant, especially now since we're building a new shrine out in the garden. Everybody has been out there. So we chant the Lotus Sutra every day. So only 28 chapters in the book, so you can at least do one chapter a day. Today for the beginning service, we did the 3rd chapter, which is one of the longest chapters, so it took a hot minute to finish. But today we'll do in chapter 5. Usually, if in the English services, if we're chanting a chapter, you only chant the verses, so it's kind of like the summary of the whole chapter. So for chapter 5, it's not very long. I was jokingly saying like 21 pages earlier, but it's really only like 5.5. So it won't be too long. We'll take out some of the other stuff that we typically do during our service to fill in the gap here. But ultimately, as I mentioned, the theme of the sutra is universal Buddhahood, right? Everyone has the potential to be a Buddha. There's a lot of stories in the sutra, for instance, like the story of the 8-year-old girl, right? Even though she's a girl, she's only 8 years old, she also was able to become a Buddha at such a young age as being a female, right? Back in the day, even today, females are kind of, or women are just kind of second class almost, right? Especially back in the time of Buddha when India had the caste system. So women were still, even though they were high class, they were still considered, lower than men. And so even when Buddha when one of Buddha's disciples first brought up the idea of ordaining women as nuns in the Sangha, he refused because he just didn't think that his community, that his monks would be able to accept the nuns. So after the third request by his attendant Ananda, they finally ordained nuns for the first time. The very first one was his aunt. She was the very first Buddhist nun. So you'll see throughout this sutra that everyone has the potential to become a Buddha, regardless of age, religion, sex, anything like that, right? Everyone has the potential. And in chapter 5, about the medicinal herbs, it's not herbs, about trees, but the core, you'll see a repetitive concept throughout the sutra about the three vehicles. The first vehicle is about the Shravakas, or the voice hearers, which would kind of be like us. And then you have the Pratyeka Buddhas, which are the self-realizers, people who became Buddhas on their own, teachers. Then you have the Bodhisattvas, or like the saints, right? And so that's kind of a common theme throughout Buddhist teachings. The sutra, the Buddha taught us that there are no three vehicles. There's just the one Buddha vehicle. But he taught the three vehicles throughout his history because each person has a limit to their capacity of being able to learn new things, right? Some people are smarter than others. Some people are able to comprehend more than others, right? So he taught according to his audience, right? So if you were teaching like a small poor village, then he would teach them in a way that, because they knew that they weren't very educated, he would teach them in a way that they would be able to understand. If he was preaching to like high class citizens or royalty, then he would teach them at a higher level because he knew they were educated, so they can understand more. So he taught everyone different levels according to what he thought their capacity was, right? That's kind of where the three vehicles come in. But in this chapter, he's talking about the three vehicles, right? And he uses example of trees, right? There's small trees for the Shravakas, the medium trees for the Pratyeka Buddhas, and large trees for the Bodhisattvas. And so those are his examples, and he's talking about how when it rains, the rain falls on all these trees and all these plants, regardless of their size, regardless of where they're at. If they're just small trees on mountains, if they're grass in meadows, if they're just flowers underneath trees, regardless of what it is, this rain is able to water all these plants and flowers. So he uses that this rain is like his Dharma teachings. That he rains upon all human beings, all living things, to give them his Dharma teachings, regardless of their knowledge, regardless of their size, regardless of their capacity to learn, right? Because we each have our own limitations, we each have our own kindness, we each have our own love, we each have our own dignity, and ability to learn. So even with that if you learn the teachings, if you are able to meet a good teacher or a good community that you're able to learn from, regardless of your own capacity, you will be able to gain fruition from those teachings. So it's a very, the whole sutra has that common theme, right? Almost majority of the chapters have the theme of the three vehicles. And then in the end, he's like, there's no three vehicles, it's just the one vehicle, right? You just had to use the three vehicles as a means to be able to teach different people at different times. But in the long run, the big picture is that we're all capable of being Buddhas. There are two major schools of Buddhism, right? The Theravada and the Mahayana. We're part of the Mahayana. The Theravada, we're kind of like the orthodox version of Buddhism. Their highest goal is to become an arhat, which is an enlightened person that escapes the specific existence of birth and death, right? But they're not Buddhas. They're enlightened, but they're not Buddhas. But they are enlightened beings, right? That's their ceiling. And the Mahayana, we have the Buddhist Bodhisattva ideal, and then the concept that we're all able to actually reach Buddhahood. It takes longer and it takes more commitment and dedication and practice, but it is something that's able to happen to you. So that's why we have a lot of mention of different bodhisattvas, of different Buddhas, because just like when I teach the meditation class on Saturdays, I'm giving you different methods of meditation because you each have different methods that work best for you, right? Likewise, in Buddhism, we have different teachings for you. We have different sutras, we have different practices that you can do because not everything is going to work for you. If I just tell you this is the one way, it's either going to work for you or it's not going to work for you, right? And if it doesn't work for you, then you're going to think, well, this is not it. Let me move on to something else, right? But luckily for us, the Buddha did teach us and give us multiple different teachings, different methods of practicing. If we're talking specifically about like the Shavakas or the voice hearers, he taught us the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, right? Just with the Four Noble Truths and Eightfold Path, that is enough for you to become enlightened or have at least some sort of glimpse and vision of enlightenment, right? The Pateka Buddhas, the self-realizers, they move on to the 12 links of dependent origination, and they're able to become enlightened from that teaching. Or the Bodhisattvas, they practice the 6 perfections, the 6 paramitas, and they're able to attain enlightenment through that, right? So you have different ways to practice. There's not one right way, because if you say there's only one right way and it doesn't work for you, then you're like, no, it's not really the right way, is it? So that's not the case. So we have thousands of volumes of sutras in Mahayana. So there are literally thousands of ways that you can practice, depending on your capability of learning and comprehending. I get probably the most asked question we get here is how do you start, or where do you start, right? And honestly, it's a difficult question to answer because unless I know you for quite some time and you kind of know where you're at in life, where your practices, I can better guide you. But if not, then I'm going to tell you straight up that you need to practice the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. That is the very foundation. Because if you don't get that, if you don't start there, then it's going to be very difficult for you to kind of move on and to learn other things or comprehend other things. So luckily in our Tuesday class, our Buddhism 101 class, we started with that. We have completed the Four Noble Truths and we're halfway through the Eightfold Path, right? Halfway. So that has been, I think, successful for many people who are curious about Buddhism or just wanting to get an idea of what it is, what the practices are. Just like with any other religion, right? There's always a ritual aspect of things. There's always the imagery of things, right? You see a lot of foreign things to you probably, like this different statues and the offerings and the flowers. So those are probably something you may not have seen before, right? But you can probably point to anything and I'll tell you what the symbolism is or what the meaning is, right? There's nothing that we do just for the sake of doing it in Buddhism, right? Everything has a meaning, everything has something that has a characteristic that we want to aspire to attain or to practice. Which only have statues, right? The statues, honestly, if we didn't have statues, this would still be a Buddhist temple because the statues are not important. There are many Buddhist temples that really just don't have any statues at all. They just have a shrine with, some offerings and incense and whatnot without any statues. The statues are not important to your practice. You only use statues to give you a focal point of practice, right? We're using the statues to be like, hey, this is what we should be aspired to go after, right? The Buddha is symbolizes perfection. He symbolizes enlightenment and compassion and love and equanimity. So we use this statue to visualize that, to contemplate on that, so that way we can in ourselves cultivate those characteristics of the Buddha. Then we have statues of the bodhisattvas on the side and in the back, right? Each of them also characterizes different characteristics and symbolism. So nothing is here just to be here, right? And the same thing with the teachings of Buddhism. He didn't teach you something just to teach you. There's always something behind everything, every meaning, every number that he gives you, right? Buddhism is a whole bunch of numbers. There's numerology left and right. But those are there because every number represents something, right? We have like the 3 jewels, but the Dharma Sangha, we have the 4 noble truths, the 8-fold path, the 12 links of the origination, the 6 perfections. There's all these numbers to help you with your practice, help you kind of memorize those bullet points of each teaching. So we'll do, hopefully once we chant the 5th chapter, you'll see a lot of the fluffy symbolism that's in the chapter, but you'll also be able to get to the kind of core of its teaching, that we all have the capacity, right? Regardless of your age, regardless of who you are, of your class, of your religion, you can be a Christian and still become a Buddha. You can be a Jew and still become a Buddha, Muslim and still become a Buddha, right? Becoming a Buddha is not exclusive to Buddhism, right? It's not a thing you become. It's a state of mind that you attain, right? So regardless of who you are, what you are, that mind state is capable of reaching you. So teacher always gives the example of even criminals are able to become Buddhas, because regardless, even though they're criminals, they still have love somewhere deep down, right? So even though we may see them as bad people, deep down they are, yes, they're doing bad things, but they still have the capability of repenting, of getting over that, of overcoming those evil things or negative things that they're doing, and become a good person. Even in chapters 6 or something, chapter on Devadatta. Devadatta is one of Buddha's cousins. He grew up with the Buddha, which is Siddhartha Gautama, and Devadatta was always a little bit older than the Buddha, but he was always jealous of the Buddha, right? Because the Buddha was the crown prince, and Devadatta would never be prince unless the Buddha kind of died, right? So always growing up, he always tried to beat the Buddha, Siddhartha. He always tried to outsmart him or just kind of be the better person, right? And he obviously never ultimately did, but he too also became a monk. But as a monk, he did some very bad things, right? He did things to try to disrupt the Sangha, disrupt the community of monks. He tried to even poison the Buddha. He tried to kill the Buddha even. So he went through all these things trying to get rid of the Buddha, but the Buddha did not revenge back. He didn't try to kick him out. He didn't try to prison him or anything like that. Instead, he said that Devadatta was a good teacher because he taught him how to be a patient and good monk. Regardless of all these negative external things that are happening to you, he kind of just let things be, accept, and be patient with him. So it's the same thing with our everyday life, right? We're always encountering people who are slightly difficult in our lives, right? Not everyone's perfect. We have to deal with difficult people, maybe on a daily basis, maybe occasionally, maybe never. That would be nice, but it's not real. But what makes them a difficult person, and I say this all the time, right? Last week we were talking about suffering and pain. There's a difference between pain and suffering, right? Pain is something that's going to happen, right? If I go over and punch someone in the face, pain is going to happen. Suffering is how you deal with that, right? It's your reaction to it. Are you going to hold back? Are you going to fight me back, right? Are you going to hit me? Because if we start fighting, other people are going to try to come in and maybe they get hurt too, right? So you're kind of spreading the suffering, and that's unneeded. Or you can just take the punch, right, and then go clean yourself up, take some medicine to alleviate yourself, and that's the good reaction. That should be the reaction that everyone should have, right, towards negativity or difficult people. So, but what makes something or someone difficult is just how you react to the situation, how you react to what they're doing to you. Because you can either if you are if someone's calling you names or saying bad things about you, your reaction is going to be either you believe what they're saying and then you feel that in yourself and you become angry and you become resentful and sad or depressed. Or you can be like, okay, fine, that's nice, whatever. I know I'm not that, so just kind of accept it, be patient with it, and move on, right? So your reaction to things are going to be how you're going to see other people or other situations. So I always say if you're being thrown bad words at you, or if someone cuts you off in the road, right? If you have road rage, that depending on how you react to the situation, how you interpret other people, right? Because even though someone's calling you names or cutting you off, you don't know their story. You don't know what they're going through, right? Unless you are part of their family and you know really what's going on, you really don't. So it's not a good thing to assume that they're just being a nasty person or they're being mean to you, right? You can't just assume those things because we really don't know what's going on. They could also be suffering, right? They can be going through a loss. They can be going through some hard times or financial times or whatever hardships, right? But our reaction to what they do to us or say to us is not just a reflection on ourselves, but hopefully over time they will also see that we are reacting with positivity and love, and maybe that'll change them as well, right? It may not happen automatically or right away. It may take a few days or months or even years. But when they see you react with compassion and with love and understanding, then they may just kind of hold back and be like, why are they treating me nicely, right, when I'm being mean to them? Or why are they not fighting back or saying things back, right? They start to reflect, have that self-reflection within themselves, and maybe something will click finally, and then they'll realize that, maybe saying all these things is not such a great idea, because it's obviously not doing anything to them, so why even bother, kind of thing, right? So positive reaction, and I know it's very difficult in our time now, right? Because everything is almost so instant and so fast, and things it's just routine almost, that we almost don't have time to stop and think before we say things, right? So if you practice our teachings, you'll know that karma has 3 aspects of mind, of thought, speech, and action, right? Because everything starts with a thought. If you think it, then you may say it. If you say, you may do it. But if you can stop and be mindful and really think about what you're about to do or say before it happens, then you have the capability of stopping yourself from doing something that's negative or harmful to others. So that's why as dedicated, hopefully, practitioners, that we should always speak slowly, we walk slowly, we do things with mindfulness, and we enjoy the surroundings, and we be mindful of our surroundings. That way, if something were to happen, that it's habit for us to kind of stop and think before we have to make this random, dramatized situation in our minds, kind of like a daydream of something, and react irrationally to things. Just kidding. But yeah, so I'll stop there. So hopefully as we chant, and I'll pass this out here shortly, that for most of us, I know this is probably the first time we're going over this chapter or the sutra. So don't try to, don't try to really think too hard about what you're reading yet. So just focus on the prayer part, the chanting part. Then you're free to take the copy with you as well. That way you have time to actually read over it multiple times and gain the knowledge that it's attempting to teach you. So we'll stop there. Does anybody have any questions, concerns, emotional outbursts? If you do, don't tell me. I already have enough of that. Any questions though? Okay. There's no questions. We'll go ahead and transfer the merit and then go into chanting. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha, Namo Shakyamuni Buddha, Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. For any positive karmic action we've accumulated here today, we wish to transfer the merits of all sentient beings and wish to inform enlightenment. So we're just going to start with our regular service, and then once I tell you when to go to the chapter, speech and mind in perfect oneness, I set my heart along with the sound of the bell. May the hearers awaken from forgetfulness and transcend all anxiety and sorrow. Listen, listen, this wonderful sound brings me back to my true home. In gratitude we offer this incense to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas throughout space and time. May it be fragrant as earth herself, reflecting our careful efforts, our wholehearted mindfulness, and the fruit of understanding slowly ripening. May we and all beings be companions of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May we awaken from forgetfulness and realize our true home. The incense in the censer now is burning, all the Dharma realm in every place. Auspicious clouds appearing, our sincere intention thus fulfilling, as all Buddhas now show their perfect body. Homage to the incense cloud canopy, Bodhisattva and great Bodhisattvas. The incense now is burning, all the Dharma realm in every place. Auspicious clouds appearing, our sincere intention thus fulfilling, as all Buddhas now show their perfect body. Homage to the incense cloud canopy, Bodhisattva and great Bodhisattvas. Homage to the eternally abiding Buddhas, the supreme Dharma and sagely Sangha throughout the Dharma realm and the realm of empty space and 3 periods of time. Homage to the fundamental teacher Shakyamuni Buddha, Maitreya, honored future Buddha, Manjushri, great wisdom, Bodhisattva, universal great conduct, Bodhisattva, all Dharma guarding Deva, Bodhisattva, and the magic mountain, assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Yeshua Mitava Buddha in the land of Avalokiteshvara, great compassion, Bodhisattva, great strength, Bodhisattva, restore great thou, Bodhisattva, and the assembly of great pure Shiva, Bodhisattvas. Swaha Shri Simha Lokaya
Shakyamuni Buddhaya.
Go to the chapter 5 now. Namo
Sutra of the Lotus of the Wonderful Law. Namo Sutra of the Lotus of the Wonderful Law. Namo Sutra of the Lotus of the Wonderful Law. At that time the world honored one spoken verse for saying, the Dharma King, destroyer of being, when he appears in the world, accords with the desires of living beings, preaching the law in a variety of ways. Thus come one worthy of honor and reverence, is profound and far-reaching in wisdom. For long he remained silent regarding the essential, and no hurry to speak at once. If those who are wise hear of it, they can believe and understand it. But those without wisdom will have doubts and regrets, and for all time will remain in error. For this reason, Tashabadi adjusts to the person to gain a correct view. Tashabadi, you should understand that it is like a great cloud that rises and security, the joys of this world and the joys of nirvana. All you heavenly and human beings of this assembly, listen carefully, and with one mind all of you should gather around and observe the one of unexcelled honor. I am the world honor, one that can rival me in order to bring peace and security to living beings. I have appeared in the world, and for the sake of this great assembly, I preach the sweet dew of the pure law. This law is of a single flavor, that of emancipation, nirvana, with a single wonderful sound. I expound and unfold its meaning. I trusting for the sake of the great vehicle. I create causes and conditions. I look upon all things as being universally equal. I have no mind to favor this or that, to love one or hate another. I am without need or attachment, and without limitation or hindrance. At all times for all things I preach the law equally, as I would for a single person. That same way I do for numerous persons. Constantly I expound and preach the law. Never have I done anything else. Coming, going, sitting, standing, never to the end, growing weary or disheartened. I bring fullness and satisfaction to the world like rain that spreads its moisture everywhere. In many intensely superior and inferior observers of precepts, violators of precepts, those who endowed with proper demeanor, those not fully endowed, those not correct views of erroneous views of keen capacity, of dull capacity. I cause the Dharma reign on all equally, never lax or neglectful. And all the various living beings hear my law, they receive it according to their power, dwelling in their different environments, not inhabit the realm of human and heavenly beings. God will turning sage kings, Chakra, Brahma, and the other kings. These are the inferior medicinal herbs. Some understand the law of no outflows, are able to attain nirvana, to acquire such transcendental powers, and gain in particular the three understandings, or live alone in mountain forests, constantly practicing meditation and gaining the enlightenment of the Buddhist. These are the middle medicinal herbs, full of receipt, the place of the world honored one, convinced that they can become Buddhist, putting forth diligent effort and practicing meditation. These are the superior medicinal herbs. Again, there are sons of the Buddha who devote their mind solely to the Buddha way, constantly practicing mercy and compassion, knowing that they themselves will attain Buddhahood, certain of it and never doubting. These I call small trees, those who abide in peace, and their transcendental powers turning the wheel of non-regression, saying innumerable millions of hundreds of thousands of living beings, bodhisattvas such as these I call large trees. The equality of the Buddha's preaching is like a single thing, but depending upon the nature of the living being, the way in which it is received is not uniform, just as the various trees receive the moisture and have different manners. The Buddha employs this parable as an excellent means to open up and reveal the matter, using various kinds of words and phrases, expounding the single law in terms have gained the strength of transcendental powers to work the goodness of all phenomena, greatly rejoicing in their lives to be with countless rays of light to save living beings. These we call our trees that have gained growth and maturity. In this way, Kashyapa, the law preached by the Buddha, is comparable to a great knowledge with a single flavored grain moistens human flowers, so that each is able to bear fruit. Kashyapa, you should understand that through various causes and conditions, various kinds of sin will be imparable. I open up and reveal the Buddha way. This is that expedient means I employ, and the same is true of the other Buddhas. Therefore, you and the others, I reach the utmost truth, not in the multitude of which hearers has entered the stage of extinction. What you are practicing is the Bodhisattva way, and as you gradually advance in practice and learning, you are all certain to attain Buddha.
Heart of Flesh and Planet. Page 10. Page 10.
Page 10.
The Bodhisattva
Avalokita, while moving in the deep course of perfect understanding, shed light on the five skandhas, found them equally empty after this penetration. He overcame the beingness of Shari, formless emptiness. Emptiness is full form, is not other than emptiness. Emptiness is not other than formless. Same is true with feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. This is Shari. All dharmas are marked with emptiness. They are neither produced nor destroyed, neither defiled nor immaculate, neither increasing nor decreasing. Therefore, in emptiness there is neither form nor feelings, nor perceptions, nor mental formations, nor consciousness. No eye or ear or tongue or body or mind, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object of mind, no realms of elements, no interdependent origins, and no extinction of them, no will being, no cause of ill being, no end of ill being, and no path, no understanding, no attainment, because there is no attainment. Bodhisattva's grounded perfect understanding, find no obstacles for their lives, having no obstacles they overcome fear, liberating themselves forever from illusion and realizing perfect nirvana. All Buddhas in the past, present, and future are right up full right in universal enlightenment. Therefore, one should know that perfect understanding is the highest mantra, the unequal mantra, the destroyer of ill being, the incorruptible truth, the mantra of Vajrapada should therefore be proclaimed. Gate Para Samgate Bodhisvaha. Gate Para Samgate Bodhisvaha. Gate Para Samgate Bodhisvaha.
We
invoke your name, Avalokiteshvara. We aspire to work your way of listening in order to help relieve the suffering in the world. You know how to listen in order to understand. We invoke your timeless nature of all that is. We will practice your way of using the sword of understanding to cut through the bonds of suffering, thus freeing ourselves and other species. We invoke your name, Samanera. We aspire to practice your vow to act with the eyes and heart of compassion, to bring joy to one person in the morning and to ease the pain of one person in the afternoon. We know that the happiness of others is our own happiness, and we aspire to practice joy on the path of service. We know that every word, every look, every action, and every smile can bring happiness to others. We know that if we practice wholeheartedly, we ourselves may become an inexhaustible source of peace and joy for our loved ones and for all species. We invoke your name, Shittikara. We aspire to learn your way of being present where there is darkness, suffering, oppression, and despair, so we can bring light, hope, relief, and liberation to those places. We are determined not to forget about or abandon those in desperate situations. We will do our best to establish contact with those who cannot find a way out of their suffering, those whose cries for help, justice, equality, and human rights are not being heard. We know that help can be found in many places on earth. We will do our best not to contribute to creating more hells on our earth, to help transform the hells that already exist. We will practice in order to realize the qualities of perseverance and stability, so that like the earth we can always be supportive and faithful to those in need. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and of love. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community, balance and harmony and awareness. Dwelling in the refuge of Buddha, I clearly see the path of light and beauty in the world. Dwelling in the refuge of Dharma, I learn to open many doors on the path of transformation. Dwelling in the refuge of Sangha, shining light that supports me, keeping my practice free of obstruction. Taking refuge in the Buddha, in myself, I aspire to help all people recognize their own awakened nature, realizing the mind of love Taking refuge in the Dharma and myself, I aspire to help all people fully master the ways of practice and walk together on the path of liberation. Taking refuge in the Sangha and myself, I aspire to help all people build fourfold communities to embrace all beings and support their transformation. Reciting the sutras, practicing the way of awareness gives rise to benefits without limits. We vow to share the fruits with all beings. We vow to offer tribute to parents, teachers, friends, and numerous beings who give guidance and support along the path.